feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
The night didn't lose its stars. It just lent them to someone who needed to disappear. July 16, 2025, somewhere between echo and eternity. There are nights when the city doesn't sleep. Not because of noise, but because a silence too beautiful to ignore decides to visit. Last night, Seoul didn't dream. It remembered. Remembered a boy with a voice like dusk and eyes that turned moonlight into metaphors. It remembered Kim Taehyung. But it didn't speak his name out loud. Because when someone becomes memory and myth at once, you whisper, so you don't wake the ache. He didn't leave. He slipped into the folds of our breath. No press release. No scheduled comeback. Just the faint sound of a jazz chord across a dim cafe speaker, and a quiet pause between heartbeats. And in that pause, the world collectively felt something unexplainable. Not loss. Not grief. But the weight of stillness. The sacredness of not knowing. The boy who became a pause in history. Taehyung didn't announce his next project. Because maybe he is the project. Maybe disappearing was the art. In a world that demands you to stay online to prove your relevance, Taehyung vanished, and in doing so became timeless. Like a film that never ends, only fades. He was seen. Or was he? A photo surfaced. A man with long hair, shoulders cloaked in quiet elegance, walking into a recording studio in LA. Too blurry. Too graceful. To him. Fans compared shadows. Compared gates. Compared soul. But in the end, what matters is not whether it was him, but that we wanted it to be. Because sometimes, longing is more powerful than fact. Jungkook's whisper sparked a symphony. It wasn't even a song. Just 12 seconds of broken piano and an unfinished hum. But then that laugh. His laugh. Not stage Taehyung. Not V. But him. The laugh that used to burst through Bon Voyage bloopers and linger through Run BTS like a summer breeze. No caption. No explanation. Just a sound. And the fandom exhaled for the first time in weeks. A presence that's louder in absence. Billboards still light up without him. Yet every ad feels a beat too fast. Every sidewalk a step too cold. Every screen a little too bright. Because without him the world still turns, but not as gently. His silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of things unsaid, of pages unwritten, of sighs we didn't know we were holding. Fans who don't wait, they listen. At Incheon, no one chants anymore. They sit. They breathe. They open their notebooks and write things like, "I saw a violet today. It reminded me of you." Or, "The air smelled like winter jazz. I think you would have smiled." They don't ask for his return. They just remember. Because in this fandom, memory is protest. Softness is resistance. And waiting? A radical form of love. He's not hiding. He's healing. There are whispers of film shoots. Of poetry retreats in Norway. Of secret art studios in Kyoto where he paints on glass and names the pieces after moments. Not after people. Because Taehyung doesn't need to immortalize names. He immortalizes feelings. The myth of going quiet. He disappeared, they say. But those who've loved him long enough know. Taehyung doesn't go quiet. He lets the world catch up. He lets us hear what silence sounds like when it's wrapped in silk and soaked in starlight. What if this is the album? What if this vanishing act is the next era? An album of still frames. Track 1, the way his coat brushed against Paris wind. Track 2, the sound of fans sighing in unison outside a shuttered gate. Track 3, a pause. A laugh. A single jazz chord. Taehyung doesn't need to announce a comeback. Because he's never really left. ARMY is not waiting for a song. They're waiting for a feeling. And that feeling? It's not in the charts. Not in the views. It's in the way hearts skip when a stranger plays his song at 2 a.m. In the way a cafe switches from lo-fi to Coltrane when the rain starts. In the way someone whispers he'd love this, to no one in particular. Because loving Taehyung was never loud. It was sacred. A boy who taught the world how to disappear beautifully. When the industry demands noise, Taehyung gives breath. When fame wants spectacle, he offers subtlety. When the world screams, he waits. Not to be noticed, but to be understood. And somewhere he's watching. Not with a phone in hand, but with a heart wide open. Reading not comments but energy. feeling not metrics but memory. Because Taeyong doesn't need applause to feel loved. He only needs silence that understands him. This is no longer news. This is scripture. The kind passed in DMs and dream journals. In handwritten letters never sent. In songs hummed beneath one's breath at crosswalks. And someday when he chooses to return, it won't be to reclaim the spotlight. It will be to remind the world how to feel again. Until then, he's not gone. He's just where he feels most human. And maybe that's not here. Not now. But when the wind carries his name again, it will be enough. Because Taeyong never needed to knock. He was the door. July 16, 2025, beneath the silence, a symphony begins. There are stories that end when the camera stops rolling. And then there are those, like his, that continue in the quiet. In the space between applause and exhale. In the moment after the curtain falls, but before the lights go dark. This is where Taeyong lives now. Not in headlines, but in hush. The world hasn't stopped asking, but he has stopped explaining. Where is he? Why hasn't he posted? Why hasn't he sung? And the world, restless, scrolls through theories like tarot cards. But Taeyong has always belonged to a different rhythm. He doesn't respond to urgency. He responds to intention. And perhaps he's teaching us to do the same. Soul carries him softly now. Not as a celebrity, but as a season. As spring that comes without warning. As winter that lingers in the scent of bookstores and second-hand coats. No street cries for him. But every alley remembers. Every taxi driver knows. He once sat here. One says, pointing to the back seat like it's a shrine. Jungkook still doesn't say his name, but we hear it anyway. The way he pauses in interviews. The slight smile when asked about collabs. The way his hand lingers over chords that don't belong to his usual style. It's subtle. Intentional. As if speaking about Taeyong would break the spell. And so he doesn't. Because some magic is too fragile for words. A playlist leaked, or maybe it didn't. 11 unnamed tracks. All instrumental. All tinged with longing and late-night cigarette smoke. Track 4 feels like a walk through rain-slicked Paris. Track 9? Like someone whispering, "I miss you," in a room where no one lives anymore. Fans dissect every piano note like scripture. And in the reverb they hear it. Not his voice, but his essence. Somewhere in Norway, the wind sounds like a violin. There's a rumor, of course there is, that he's taken a cabin in the Lofoten Islands. That he wakes up to fog in fish markets. That he paints in the morning and records by candlelight at night. No cameras. No contracts. Just the northern lights and the kind of loneliness that heals. Taeyong didn't leave the stage. He just chose a different one. Maybe it's not stadiums anymore. Maybe it's lakes. Maybe it's a quiet conversation with a child who doesn't know what BTS means. Maybe it's a nap on a train between nowhere and somewhere beautiful. Maybe it's dancing barefoot in a kitchen at 3 a.m. to Nina Simone. Army knows, this silence isn't absence. It's art. We've learned to stop asking when he'll return. Instead, we've started asking, how can we hold space for him until then? In letters never mailed. In fan art shared anonymously. In midnight playlists titled "For Him Wherever He Is." We've become curators of memory. Caretakers of presence. His impact outgrew his image. The fashion world still wears coats like his. Musicians mimic his pauses. Photographers wait for that same gaze he once gave the same. But none of it is him. Because Taeyong cannot be replicated. He doesn't exist in aesthetic. He exists in feeling. Sometimes, Jungkook looks at the sky differently. And fans see it. The way he stares just a moment longer. As if remembering a laugh he didn't hear but still felt. As if waiting for someone to walk in like they used to, unannounced. Like he always did. And somewhere in that silence a song is born. Fans have started leaving notes in empty spaces. Under trees he once passed. On cafe windows he once leaned against. In the bookshelves of Jeju ghost houses. Each one reads differently. But the heart behind them is the same. You don't have to come back. But if you ever do, we'll still be here. We never left. This is not a comeback era. This is a becoming. He isn't lost. He's just not ready to be found. And that perhaps is the bravest thing an artist can do. To choose growth over applause. Stillness over streaming numbers. Breath over branding. To be human before being iconic. And when he does return, it won't be loud. There won't be fireworks. No teaser trailers. No hashtags prepared by marketing teams. It'll be simple. Maybe just a video of him placing a record on a turntable. Or a photo of the sea with a caption that reads, "I'm okay." And we'll know that the boy who once carried a galaxy in his gaze has finally found his own sky again. Until then, we continue the story without ending it. Because legends don't retire. They evolve. Like rivers. Like echoes. Like the warmth that lingers on a coat long after someone's left. Taeyong is not gone. He's simply living at a depth the surface can't reach. And if you ever wonder where he is, close your eyes. Play the softest jazz you can find. And wait. Because sometimes the ones we miss most are already with us. In ways we never expected.